Hi everyone, and good Saturday morning. It's 21 News Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm here. I thought I'd do a relatively quick video updating you on today's weather here locally, and of course we're going to talk about Hurricane Irma. If you have friends and family in Florida, other parts of the southeast, you may be interested in a quick update this morning from a local perspective here in Youngstown, Ohio, where we are not expecting many impacts from Irma. What we are expecting impacts from for a little while this morning, it's the fog. We've got some fog in parts of the region this morning. Here's our Window World weather camera in Niles this morning showing some reduced visibility along 422, and your mileage kind of can vary here with the fog. Some places it's a little bit dense, some places it's real shallow and not really impactful. So watch out for that for another hour or two this morning. The afternoon today will be pleasant but cool again. We should be in the mid-70s, but we'll stop in the mid-60s this afternoon. A pleasant afternoon for sure at Stambaugh Stadium as the Penguins take on Robert Morris at 2 p.m. Very October-like day out there today with a mix of sun and clouds in Youngstown. All right, let's head down to the tropics. This is Irma, which has been flirting with northern Cuba all night long and into this morning. The center of circulation now visible on the Miami radar right in through here. Let me make sure my head's not covering that. No, we're fine. Just over here. That's the center of circulation with Irma. This has been flirting with the northern coastline of Cuba all night into this morning, and that has caused it to weaken somewhat. The circulation's been disrupted a little bit, but the problem is that as it emerges from the northern Cuba coastline, the water from here to Key West is really warm, and there's not much wind shear up in the atmosphere to cause weakening with the system. So the warm water could aid in some redevelopment or re-strengthening as this approaches the west coast of Florida and the Florida Keys later on tonight into tomorrow morning. Already some outer bands beginning to impact southern Florida, including the Keys, and actually there's some pretty strong winds in some of these outer bands. Been sampling some wind gusts here of up to 60 to 70 miles per hour already in South Florida. So as preparations are continue to be rushed to completion here, the weather is already deteriorating in South Florida. Now the wind field, let me back this up and pause this. The wind field with Irma is pretty expansive. The hurricane force winds are the red color. They extend out quite a ways. The tropical storm force winds, again, are already getting up into the Keys and into far South Florida, just south of Miami. Now, as we go through time, this will make landfall tonight into tomorrow morning through the Keys and southwest Florida, and the hurricane force winds will make their way up into places such as Naples, and eventually all the way up pretty close to Tampa Bay before the storm starts to slowly weaken, but even late tonight into tomorrow morning, even into tomorrow afternoon, I should say, still some very strong winds up to Orlando, Tampa, Melbourne, and up to Jacksonville as well. So central and northern Florida is still likely to see some pretty strong winds, even though the storm will overall be weakening. Now the shift to the west has been pronounced with Irma over the last day or so, and you can see that here on our tropical models. You can see that most of them are now clustered right along the west coast of Florida. This does not mean that Miami, West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, does not mean those areas are out of the woods. It just means they're not going to take a direct hit from the eye wall from Irma. The eye wall is probably going to pass over the Keys and then up into southwest Florida, sparing Miami from the absolute worst of the weather, but still hurricane force winds and storm surge going to be a big problem over along the southeast coast. Eventually, this is going to kind of bend back north and west through Georgia. Still a big time concern with power outages and flooding in the Atlanta area, up to Columbia, South Carolina, even as far north as Charlotte, North Carolina. The combination of a couple of inches of rain and wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour, that could lead to a lot of power outages. For the beaches of the Carolinas, Myrtle Beach and Wrightsville Beach, and heading down towards Charleston, and then even down as far south as Hilton Head, beach erosion is going to be a problem. There's going to be gusty winds, but they're not going to take a direct hit from Irma. So, good news and bad news for them. Eventually, Irma is just going to kind of die over the Tennessee Valley, and that means impacts for us will be very minimal. The 8 a.m. advisory this morning featuring wind gusts of 190, but sustained winds of 130. These wind speeds are down. The pressure is up to 937. So there has been some weakening as this has interacted with Cuba over the last 12 to 18 hours. But again, as this pushes north, the water's warm. And the land interaction with Cuba will lessen, and so it's possible that this could do some re-strengthening. It won't be a significant change from here on out, but some modest re-strengthening is possible. It's likely to come ashore as a Category 4 hurricane across the Keys. This will be the worst hurricane in the Florida Keys in a long, long time. And up into southwest Florida and up into the Tampa area. This is the most likely track right now. Could still jog more into the central part of the state, or even it's still possible that this stays over the water, the circulation stays just offshore. That would be bad news for the west coast of Florida and even up into the Big Bend of Florida, right through here, and parts of the Panhandle. If this stays out over the water, it's obviously going to slow down the weakening process. So residents there definitely want it to stay over land as much as possible. Again, this will cruise up through Georgia and eventually just turn itself into an extratropical cyclone by midweek over the Tennessee Valley, and will not be much of a problem much farther north than that. Chance of hurricane winds, strongest of course across the Keys and up into southwest Florida and up perhaps up to Tampa Bay, but notice how the odds have gone down over here on the East Coast. Now that being said, there's still going to be a big problem with flooding and storm surge over here. There's still going to be some strong winds. It's just they're not going to bear the brunt of the strongest hurricane force winds. You'll see that here in this is our in-house computer model showing the storm approaching very late tonight and towards daybreak Sunday morning with gusts of around 100 out towards Marathon and Key West. Hopefully all the residents on the Florida Keys have gotten out of the way at this point. And then up to Marco Island, Naples, Fort Myers, 70 to 100, maybe 120 mile per hour wind gusts as the center either comes ashore or, as you can see on this particular model, stays just offshore. So the end game, even just 24 hours out, 24 to 30 hours out, is yet to be determined here. And then finally, it will get out of South Florida as we go into Sunday night and into Monday morning. Storm surge potential, it is significant down here across southwest Florida. Let's see if I can query this. Well, let me query this. No, not really. But if you look at our legend up here, in this yellow and green, this could be a storm surge of up to 10 to 15 feet. That's the worst case scenario, but it's possible. A 10 to 15 foot storm surge in southwest Florida. That is bad news. Over on the East Coast, again, the numbers are not as impressive, but still, a storm surge of a few feet is nothing to shake a stick at. And up farther north, even though they're far away from the center of circulation up here, if you have friends and family at Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, down to Charleston, down to Savannah, Hilton Head, a pretty significant storm surge event will get underway there. There's just nowhere for the water to go through here. You've got this kind of crescent-shaped coastline, and that makes it particularly prone to some flooding. All right, so I didn't mean to show that graphic. Let's wrap things up this morning. Hope you'll enjoy a nice weekend here across the Mahoning and Shenango Valleys. Some sunshine, cool weather today. It's not shorts weather, mid-60s today, but a nice day for football at Stambaugh Stadium. It'll be great down in Columbus tonight for Oklahoma and my Ohio State Buckeyes. And we expect a bright and sunny Sunday. I'll have more updates from time to time this weekend on Irma. Don't forget to follow Andrew DePaulo, meteorologist Andrew DePaulo. He will have you covered in the Weather Center this evening on 21 News at 6 and 11. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great weekend.